Alright, so here is my values tutorial to follow up on the line arts. This is the next step that I'll take. So I'll take this finished line art that I already made and I will just, add all of the values to make it look right and everything. Alright, so first of all we're going to start off with the line art, and I use the magic select tool to select everything that isn't going to be the character. So everything that I'm going to be coloring, so I'm just selecting the background basically. And then once I have the background all selected and everything, I will go to selection and then I will invert it. And I make a new folder, and that's going to be my values, and then I make some layers inside of the folder. So with the inverted selection, I just use the bucket tool to fill in some light gray color as the base inside of that values folder, and then I'll make layers on top of that. And I set them to a clipping group, which makes it so that you can only draw on the parts that are on the base. You see, look at that, with it on and off. So the clipping group makes it so that you can only color in the lines, basically. So if that's something you don't understand, you should probably learn it because it's a really good tool. So here I'm making just like a map of what I want the lighting to be like. So I want some light blue ambient light from behind. And then I think my main light source will be like a warm yellowish color from kind of the right in front, but that was a little hard to demonstrate. So yeah, and so then I can always keep those in mind when I'm coloring. So here I'm going to add like a gradient shading on top of that that base layer. I'm just going to take like a light color. The layer I'm using is set to multiply, and I'm using a large airbrush to just add like the most basic shadows, and it'll really help to have that there. And then I'm blending it out or erasing it in some places to just add like really basic soft shadows to just start off. That's a really good step to use. I'm blending it out a little bit using my watercolor tool, or my wet blend tool, and then now I'm on a layer above that set to multiply. And I'm using my marker tool to just add in some more basic shading. And my marker tool is kind of big now because it's still kind of very basic. But having that layer set to multiply will make it darker over where it's already shaded and not as dark over where it isn't shaded yet. So it just adds kind of like with a lower opacity, I guess, but it's a really nice effect, and that's a good way to use it. So I use multiply for all of my shading layers, and then I will use overlay for highlight layers and luminosity for hard highlight layers. But we'll get to that later. So yeah, I'm gonna be doing like, I don't know, 3 or 4 layers of just shadowing like this with the marker tool. And then just blending it out in certain places. So I'm just adding more value, more and more value everywhere it needs to be, and making sure that it makes sense with the light source, because I'm only using my main light source right now to shade. It's easier to just do, I mean, like, to make your pieces look better, you should always have more than one light source. And it's easiest to just work with one light source at the time. So right now, I'm just shading for my main light source. So basically all of your shadows are going to be from the main light source. And to make the secondary light source, the ambient light source, kind of exist, you're going to want to add highlights in the shadows, if that makes any sense. You'll see it later. It's a pretty cool thing. Anyway, you just always have to keep in mind the basic form and the way that the light would be hitting it and everything. Like, if you need references, use references. References are great for everything all of the time, and it's a really good way to learn as well. So, and okay, so this is, I'm not really sure what to say. Just shading. Yep, shading. We have these weird armor pieces around the ribs here, and I don't know if I really, they look cool, but I don't know if I like the ones that are on the right side, because they look kind of weird, but I don't know, it's supposed to be there, so I'm leaving it there. So here I am on my second shading layer, so there's going to be the base layer that's just all gray, and then clipped above that, set to multiply, would be the gradient layer. Oh, here okay, so this is how we're going to do like the blending. So you make a line and then you only blend out like one side of the line. So it'll make it look more detailed if you only blend out one side. So the way that I do it is the side that is closest to the light is going to be the sharp unblended side, and then I blend out the side that's further from the light. So that usually makes it look good, unless the light is being blocked or obscured by something that would leave a hard shadow, like her hair there. Or say, I don't know, the nose. And it's also important to know how to do the nose. I think it's important to have a strong nose game. So that'll be really, really helpful. Because if the nose looks good, then, I don't know, I guess it just makes the rest of the face look good. And if your nose looks bad, then it's just not fun to look at. So there's also going to be some other light sources on Kosmos as well that I'm ignoring. Like there's a part on her visor that glows blue, and I think there might be some other parts on her like armor that also glows, but I'm ignoring those right now when I'm doing the values, and I'm just going to represent those with color, basically, so that the values will still look good. So I'm adding even more darker shadows on my third multiply layer. So I have the base layer, which is the light gray, and then I have the gradient layer clipped above that, set to multiply, and then above that I have my first basic shadows layer done with a large marker tool and then blended out in certain places. And now I'm working on the third multiply layer, and I'm using a slightly smaller marker tool set completely to black now instead of gray, to make it really make the shadows pop. So I'm doing a little bit more detail work now, but it's not like super detail work. It's just kind of I'm adding what needs to be there, yeah, and always keeping in mind the light source and everything. So I think I do, there's this layer, and then I do one more layer above it using my sketch brush to do the darkest details and whatever. So, and doing the hair is pretty fun. I mean, the way that I do the hair is, you know, see the basic shadows and the gray color and the mid-tone, if you will, and then I do some hard dark shadows next to where the lighter part is. So it makes it really pop like that. So it really makes the lighter part stand out even more. And that's how I do that. So, and there's the cast shadow from her weird visor thing. Yeah. And always remember when doing hair or anything that would have a lot of detail, really, if you're shading, the place where the detail goes is in the midtones. So you're not going to put very much detail in the dark parts, and you're not going to put very much detail in the light parts. It's just the midtones where the detail goes, like when you're doing hair especially. And I always try and keep that in mind, but sometimes it's hard to get right. Alright, so I have a bunch of scribbles. Now I'm blending it out with my wet blend tool. I like this one because it gives it nice wet edges, like nice markers would, or like a watercolor would, kind of. So that's why I like that one. It's really great for that that anime look that a lot of people like. Yeah. So now, I don't know, I'm not really sure where to go here. I do like 4 layers of shadow, and then over that I will start to do some highlights as well. So I'm still doing the shadows. So exciting. Yep. I spent I think this video was about an hour and a half long, and it's sped up times 4, so yeah, this does take a long time. This isn't something that's done quickly, so, you know, I know it looks like I'm doing it quickly, but I'm not. It took me all day, so. You just need to practice and understand. Even I am probably doing these values wrong. Like, if you asked a more experienced or a more professional artist, they'd probably be all like, your values are still really weird, and I'd be like, yeah, I know. I'm just winging it, so. Yeah, like that really dark part right there that I'm kind of working on, like in the middle of her weird armor, that's going to be lit up, I think. as far as I know, and part of her visor is glowing. I like glowy effects. It's really fun. They're pretty easy to do too once you learn. It's a really good way to make everything look more detailed, I think. Oh, and always when you're doing your shading and coloring and everything, keep in mind textures of the objects or the whatever that you have to be coloring. Like a lot of this it's going to be metal. The armor is all made of metal and everything, but so, I mean, it's going to be kind of shiny maybe, but it's not really like a shiny type metal in the game, really. It's just kind of metal. I don't know. And her sleeve is like some sort of leather. So I try and keep that in mind. Maybe I'll apply textures later. I probably will, just for the sake of the tutorial, because it's a really good trick to learn. I will, okay, so after I do the, after I do the values, I will color it, and the color goes underneath the values, I think, or it could go over, depending on what kind of effect that you want. I could demonstrate both. I will also probably end up demonstrating how to color without doing this values step and with just color, kind of, but it might not end up looking proper. Your values might end up looking kind of weird. But, I mean, I guess that doesn't really matter as long as the finished product looks good. And again, I'm only shading according to that main light source that I have mapped out over there, the yellow one that's going to be off to the right, kind of a little bit in front, sort of, if that makes sense. And then I always keep in mind that there's going to be environmental light as well, so it's not going to be completely shaded everywhere, but the basic idea is the light's coming from the right, and then there will be the ambient light, the bounce light, if you will, that will be very, like, you know, it'll be kind of subtle elsewhere, and then I have the ambient blue light, which is the environmental light source, that I will put on there later, so I'm only really worrying about the main light source right now. Alright, so here I am just adding some more scribbles with a very small sketch brush. Oh wait, no, I'm still using the marker brush. And I'm just trying to add, like, make it darker. But the cool thing about the marker tool is the darkness of the color that you're laying down depends on the pressure that you're applying. So if I press really hard, it's going to turn out like black. But if I press really light, it'll be like a light gray. So that's pretty neat. And every now and then I'll also go back and adjust my brush's density depending on how I want it to turn out. Like when I use the sketch brush, I have it set to a lower density than I use to do the line art, so that it's not too confusing or distracting when I go to do the line art, except, you know, when I color it, it'll look fine. So this is basically the magic formula. You just kind of keep on adding multiply layers and laying down shadows and blending and again and again and again, and it pretty much works the same way with colors, except instead of like, I mean, I guess you could use like blacks and stuff, but you could also use darker versions of the color that you're already working with as the base layer. But I will go into that with my colors video that I will be doing later on. So for this one, this is actually where I'm at with this picture. I just finished doing the values, and now I just need to do the colors, and then I'm also gonna finish up my tutorial with that, so I'm gonna go over a lot of stuff. Alright, so this is me on another multiply layer. I think it is the fourth multiply layer, so it's the fourth shading layer, and I'm using the small sketch brush to add in like really fine shadows and details and stuff around the face, especially because that's important, and the mouth and all that. And that takes like a century, especially with the hair, but I mean, it's totally worth it when it's done. So these take like forever. If you guys are expecting that maybe you'll be able to just kind of push button make art, it doesn't really work that way. It still takes a really long time to do anything digital, typically, if you want it to be good. I mean, I suppose you could do it quicker, but I mean, I do things very thoroughly. I think so. It's also, I couldn't really get like the hair up there to be as dark as I wanted it to, but I figure that's something that I'll just tweak with the colors later on too. So I will leave some things undone for now. And I always zoom out really far a lot to just map out where all of the shadows should be, because it's easier to work on it when you can see it as like a whole piece. And then I'll zoom in to blend and do the details and everything. So I'm typically only ever I zoom out quite a bit, but I think right now it's at 75%. I don't know, I can't. Anyway, so when it comes to doing colors and detail work, I'll zoom in to up to like 150%, but that's really not necessary, because I found that if I do that, since I do also export my image to like 50% of the size that it actually is when I upload it, you won't be able to see all of the details and all of the work that I put into it unless you see the full view version that I always put on my DeviantArt, and you have to like download it and look at it. It's like massive, and yeah, so I feel like I need to do less details, but I just can't because I'm crazy. Oh, and here I am messing with the layers or the settings for the line art layers, because I had it set to regular, like just normal, but because the opacity of the brush that I used was kind of low, it was, the lines weren't as there as I wanted them to be, as dark. So I was seeing maybe if I set it to like multiply or something, will look better. And yeah, I set it to multiply, and that's fine. So I think I have my lines on multiply, which is not, it doesn't really do much of anything, honestly, with the way that I'm coloring. So yeah. Yep, adding in all those fine details. And then I think this is my very last shadow layer, and after that I start doing highlights. So yeah, the highlights are just like, I take white and a marker tool or whatever the hell, and I just sort of do the exact same thing. And sometimes for the highlights I will do multiple layers as well if I really want some highlights to be kind of there, and then other light highlights to just like pop, so yeah. So these are going to be the really dark shadows, and yeah, so I think it looks good so far. Maybe I can do with a bit more shadows, like up on top, like on the visor. I don't know, it's not really a big deal though. I'll probably just leave it. I get a little carried away with the values. Ah, yes, there we go. With the sketch tool, just adding little details and such. Oh yeah, it's totally thrilling. By this point, I was like pretty much done. I'm just like, I'm so tired of this right now. So I think I was just trying to like hurry up and get it thrown together. Alright, so this is the final shading I'm doing with the main light source. So, and then I will move on to the secondary light source, which is really just something that will show up more when I actually color it. So yeah, the values is also like one of the easy parts. The coloring is where it gets really difficult, and I have so many tricks. Oh, there's so much hair. I don't know why I always draw so much hair. It's just so, it takes so much time to color. Why do I do this? It looks cool, but God. Alright, there we go. Adding some highlights now. I did another layer, again with the clipping group set to overlay, and I'm just using a marker tool set to the color white, and I'm just putting on some highlights where they would be from either light source. I'm mostly just focusing on the secondary light source right now though, because that's really gonna help a lot. So I'm adding highlights from the secondary light source, which is going to be behind her there, and that's pretty fun. I'm not too worried about doing the values on the eyes right now, because that's its own situation, doing the eyes, and it's mostly just a color deal. So and now I'm using the sketch tool to make some like really really crisp looking highlights, because that's nice when you have crisp looking highlights and everything. So I scribble it on there and then I blend it out. Blend, blend, blend. Maybe I rely on the blender too much. I don't know. Whatever. It doesn't really matter, I suppose. Yep, just using this overlay layer. And I think I only do the one highlight layer for this piece because I don't feel like it needed more than that. Yeah. So I'm almost done with all the highlights. Yay! Almost done with the values. Sorry this video is so long. It's just, I mean, there's a lot to cover with, especially if you aren't already familiar with how to use digital art programs. Here I'm just drawing like the shines in the hair and I can't really get it right, so I keep erasing it and blending it, and I don't know, I decided just not to really go there. I mean, just add a little bit, because sometimes less is more, so. Adding the highlights over there for her weird head thing, and my other video just finished on there. Now I'm doing the highlights from the primary light source, so really trying to make that pop and make it look good. Some of it might not make sense. I mean, that probably doesn't make sense that I did right there, but I'm just gonna leave it because it makes it look interesting, and that's all that really matters. Adding some of the hair highlights, some on her arm. That on the bottom is a nice little trick that I always do, and you will see most professional artists do, is they take the part of the image that is like the darkest, and then they add some highlights in it to really just make the shadows and everything in the form just pop and look 3D. So that's also a really good trick. Always keep in mind that you should have more than one light source. Typically, a good way to do it is three-point lighting, but that's something that I don't know about, so I'm not really qualified to talk about that. You should maybe Google it or something. The 3-point lighting system, it's just basically like you have a main light and then you have your environmental light and then like an environmental ambient light, and it's pretty much it. I don't know. I can't really go in depth because I don't understand it fully. So yeah, just adding a few more highlights that, I mean, a lot of them probably don't really make sense, but they look good, so I'm gonna keep them even if they don't make sense. Like that I don't know, that doesn't really make sense. There probably shouldn't be very much light there, but it's metal and shiny, and I'm just gonna put some highlights there because it looks kind of boring. So, yeah. Anyway, so that's almost done. I think I'm just blending it out a little bit, adding a few more shadows that I think should be there. So I go back to the multiply layer that I already did before underneath of that, and just add more some more shadows. So if I take away everything else, that's what it looks like. And that is done, and that's all I could teach you about values. From here, we're gonna go ahead and start doing the coloring. And there's a few different ways I can go from there. So thanks for watching, and I hope I didn't ramble too much.